Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Okay, welcome everybody to the next edition of Now and Zen. This is a lot of fun for me, meeting wonderful people and having a chance to chat about things that really matter and just having a real conversation with people. That's what I enjoy doing, and but about information that matters. And this is crucial to our time right now. Obviously, on this planet, we're confronted with a lot of challenges, but there are wonderful people doing wonderful things. And one of those people is with me today. Her name is Sofia Smallstorm. You may have heard of her regarding the Sandy Hook investigation and exposés. She's a strong educator regarding geoengineering and all related topics, technocracy, and how everything weaves together. A brilliant, courageous woman. I'm really honored to have her on today. She's a real advocate for truth and what you could call a true researcher and investigator. And I'm honored to know her, and I'd like to introduce you to her. She's here with us. Hi, Sophia. Great to have you with us.
Hi, Zen. I like the name of your show.
Now and Zen.
Now and Zen.
Yeah, little play on words.
I always tell people when they describe me and they go kind of crazy about what I am and what I do and how brave I am, I sit here shaking my head thinking, that's not me. He's not talking about me. And that's, really how I feel. I just think I'm a regular person who's poking around and trying to fit things together so they make sense. That's all I'm doing.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel the same about myself. I mean, it's the responsible response of any living human being to simply find out why we're here and what's going on, and when you do, to respond responsibly. It's that fundamental. Yet, as we know, this matrix of deceit foists this complicated mechanism that harvests human energy and human time and human attention. But when you pop out of it, it's a glorious world to live in, but it's an uphill fight because there's a lot to expose, and there's all those that aren't awake that we're so concerned about. Just to touch quickly on your the areas of expertise that at least I'm familiar with, where you've had amazing videos and interviews and articles written up regarding things such as the Sandy Hook incident, which you were right out of the gate. You've been reporting about geoengineering and those aspects, as well as more recently on the rise of technocracy and transhumanism. And obviously these all tie together, and I'm right with you on all these subjects. But do you want to, for our viewers' sake, explain a little bit about how you got into this awakened state where your passion has become this kind of truth and investigation and a researcher that has the passion to share what she's learned, so people can get to know you a little bit?
Well, Zen, I'm happy to talk about that. But again, I see myself very differently from other people. I am just one of these people who thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks and won't stop thinking. I want to problem solve, but in order to do that, the first thing you have to do is identify what the problem is, right? And sometimes, especially in this world we live in, everything it has been so well masked in that the mask lives in our own minds, and it's very difficult to remove unless you kind of train yourself to do that. And I managed, of course, to have that mask ripped away in the early 2000s, I guess, around the time of 9/11. I knew something was really wrong. The invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq, those were really wrong. I was really too young during Vietnam, and I didn't really know what that was about because I was a child. So that really was what started making me aware of this thing called politics that I had studiously avoided my whole life. I professed a deeper interest in literature, writing, social sciences, that kind of thing, as a curious person. Yeah. But this politics just seemed all about war and conflict and needless, I thought it was male dominated and government and military dominated. And anyway, so at the time that, the United States invaded Afghanistan after 9/11, which I couldn't believe that buildings fell because planes hit them. That made no sense at all to me. But so, that's how when I started to wake up. And then when you are thinking now along a new line, the universe or synchronicity or whatever it is out there, the force of growth doesn't forget you. And so things just plopped into my lap that made me blink and say, what? And they related to the things I was thinking about. And I managed to piece a lot more together. And today, that's what I'm doing. I'm just thinking. And, I don't really surf the internet myself. I just open my email and somebody sends me something and I go to that link and then I start poking around a little more. But it's almost like there's a director here that says, Sophia, you have to look at this now. And seriously, the way it all lines up, once your consciousness just gets a little bigger on a certain subject. I knew back in 2009 when I watched that movie, The Age of Transitions by Aaron Franz, and it was all about the futurists, Ray Kurzweil, the whole, marriage of man and machine. I said, this is what Clifford Carnicom has discovered. He's discovered these man-made fibers and they're embedding in people's tissues. This is the start of changing biology at the cellular level. Don't ask me how I figured that out. And I started to talk about it. I barely knew what I was talking about. And then, of course, I learned more and more and more and more. And, Sandy Hook, it was pretty clear that was a FEMA capstone event. The minute I found out about those, an integrated capstone event, meaning it employed many different resource teams like hospitals and media and police and whatnot. And then I found out about federal grants for militarization, and that fit Sandy Hook, like to a T. It was these school shootings are all paid for by federal grants. The federal government is a corporate system that does commerce, as are the towns and cities. Everybody is militarizing. Everybody is being paid to do so. The police state is, in formation. The spree of school shootings scattered all over the country is just an even peppering of militarization exercises that are reported in some instances as live in order that the public's reaction is studied and observed. That's part of the exercise. It's an observational platform. And then public opinion is shaped.
Right. That's partially how they keep those people that are involved, for those who are wondering, quiet and enthusiastic about their work, is because they feel they're part of a bigger social program. They'll actually explain to these people, as I perceive it, you're part of this greater idea of understanding how Americans and the world would respond to such an event. So, be realistic, be convincing, and, be quiet, because this is something that's very important, and you're in on the big secret. That's how they keep the crisis actors and all these participants quiet.
Well, it's that, and it's the fact that all of this is contractual. You don't do commerce without contracts. They're Siamese twins.
Mm.
So when you are under contract to do a certain thing, whether it's, your performance, your participation, then you don't violate what you've been assigned to do because there are legal repercussions. So the legal system is the third twin. So it's like three Siamese twins.
Mm.
The legal system is a commerce system as well. And there's giant money behind this because the militarization grants they consist of money that governments borrow from the international banks. They get thrown into the pool, the trillions and trillions of debt, national debt. And so, people who participate know very well that if they don't do what they have signed up to do, then they end up in real trouble legally with possible elimination or, the black ops and things that always...
Or at the very least, they lose their livelihood. They lose their security, and then worse can happen after that. This is the same way that they kept 9/11 under wraps. That people relegate their authority to these structures. You're so beautifully explaining, and they'll assign the blame if there's any accountability morally that they might sense somewhere in the far reaches of their hearts. They'll relegate the blame to those who told them to do it. But they I had to do this. I was forced to do it, and then the ultimate religious justification is the powers that be are ordained of God, and so people just follow along, insanely perpetrating the very thing that's killing them and their own children, which is the bottom line. But please continue. That's beautifully said. Beautifully said. These Siamese twins and how they work in symbiosis.
Right. Well, you said it better just now even. But so, yeah, human beings are very easily marched along by hierarchical formation. We respond well to hierarchy. Somehow it must be hardwired in us. It must be part of the group survival instinct. They've kind of, again, confused us in that over the last 200 years, they've really placed emphasis on the individual thriving. And, that's the me generation, the narcissism, do what's right for you, think of yourself, numero uno, that kind of thing. But the fact is that humans form into group arrangements very naturally. And they want to look to a higher order for direction. Especially when it's unclear as to where to go and what to do. And our current society is very chaotic. So we respond well to that hierarchic thing and also to mind control, to opinion formation. It's not natural, really, in a group. If you're going to help the group to survive, it's not easy or natural to think independently. So I think we're conflicted. I don't know if it's in our makeup. I mean, we're not really animals. We're not, what the hell are we? We don't really know. But there are these strains of mammalian behavior in us, the desire to follow, not lead. I mean, some people are born leaders and they know it, and that's what happens to them. In a natural setting, our leaders today are all groomed. They're selected. They're puppet types who will respond very well to their own programming and mind control, which is done from the time they're children. So I'm talking about natural leaders. But, like the alpha pack in the animal setting, wolf packs, they have the alpha.
Right.
And the betas are lined up. So if the alpha dies, there's a beta that will take its place and become an alpha. So I don't, again, all of this is dabbling for me, and I'm glad it informs other people. I'm glad I can share my thoughts in the way that I do, which is with my newsletter that you can see samples of on my website, aboutthesky.com. There's a newsletter tab, and I write this personal newsletter every month in which I do this dot connecting. So you have to subscribe. But you can read the samples and see what you think. So anyway, yeah, we are a very odd creature.
Yeah. We're almost like one of Luther Burbank's grafted plants when he was experimenting way back on plants, producing different types of fruits and vegetables. But we're essentially, despite our DNA and physical makeup and even our heritage, be it from the stars, be it from the earth, be it a combination of all of these things, what we have within us, this conscious awareness, is it can't be replicated. It is unique. It is connected to source. It is creative. And this is what is erupting within you and me and so many people, where we find this information and we see it almost not as a puzzle, but as clues of a greater picture, of an empowering overview of what life really is and why we're here. And we're compelled to sift through this and sort it out and find not just meaning, but seeing beyond it. There's this amazing creative fabric that underlies everything that is inherently the solution to what's wrong right now. As you just said, the natural processes are wonderful. They're beautiful. The unnatural, the synthetic that these people are foisting, and from whatever place they derive their energy, be it archons or, people say demons or other dimensional realities, or just greedy psychopaths. It's the same driving force that is in opposition to nature, and it can only imitate it. It can only suppress it. It can only try to control it, which is what we see manifest in all these control mechanisms that we all of a sudden notice. Go, why is it like this? It doesn't need to be this way. In our hearts, we know there's a greater reality that is just natural and wonderful. Yet they have to keep foisting their mechanisms on us incessantly, because if they stop, for example, the geoengineering, the chemtrails, the GMOs, all these different vectors of oppression of humanity, if they stop, nature will usurp these things and restore things back to normalcy, call it normalcy, to creative source. So they have to keep doing this, hence the struggle. So we sense this in our hearts and are trying to make sense of it. And the beauty of it is that as we each sort of rise up through this process, we find each other, like being able to connect with you. And I know you've met other awakened and amazing people that are on this trail. That network is growing by the minute, and people are discovering it. And it is so empowering in spite of this onslaught that people become aware of. And that's one thing people have to get through, is they got to get past the seemingly dark information to find this resource at the end of it. Anyway, I went on there, but that's sort of a summary of how I see this processing of information and the beauty of it. It really is. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I think it's beautiful if you can stay in the present with it. And that's what I've been trying to understand better in my own life. Because, we tend to drift into the past, where we employ perceptions that are really kind of a bit destructive, like blame and resentment and guilt, or we dread the future. And that's very easy to do as an alternative thinker. As you awaken to the upside downness of everything, then you become anxiety filled and you dread what's coming.
Yes.
What's coming is only
can easily happen.
What is now, right? So that is kind of counterproductive also, because one of my favorite sayings is, anything can happen. Anything. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be mediocre. But seriously, the future isn't here. It's there. It's out there. So it can contain anything. And if it's true that we are frequency generating creatures, then we're really, if it is true that our creativity our intent, let's call it that, is our real power, then why are you messing with that by dreading something that hasn't even happened yet when you could instead possibly influence the future by employing your soundest state right now? Because we have now. And the thing is, the future becomes the present all the time. When the next moment arrives, then it's the present, you know? So by dreading the next moment or line of moments, then all we're doing is inviting the worst upon us instead of employing and deploying the best of ourselves, which is pure creativity.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. When you think about it, what is one of the main programs of the social engineers? That's to get people transfixed on a particular scenario, a possible outcome. And if you look at the movies, it's never a happy ending. You know, it's the end of the world. It's this, it's that. Religion does the same thing. It's the end. It's the end. So they reinforce this sort of inclination that human nature perhaps is inclined to succumb to sort of, but that's only because of the spirit of fear and the spirit of worry, which again is coming from them. So it's the whole vicious cycle. But it's so true. It's such a clear technology to simply intend and therefore manifest this positive outcome. It's not in some kind of new age, the secret kind of BS. It's a very pragmatic technology that each of us must employ. And it's not avoidance. It's not missing something. It's as real as like they're describing in quantum physics, you know, where your attention goes manifests. So I mean, we're learning these things, that this is becoming available information, and it's for us to tap into. But I love how you said that. It's so true, and it's a real problem with as you're implying there, with alternative researchers, because you become so aware of these things, and you can see their mechanisms, and you can see where it's going, and it's going to go this, that, this, you know, and it may very well, I don't know, but all I know is I'm not going to contribute to it. I don't want to contribute to it. And I'm not going to live in that reality now, never mind later, if I can possibly avoid it. So it comes down to very pragmatic decisions, doesn't it?
Right. And I also believe that, okay, so the Earth was somehow, this Earth experiment was meant to be like this. And we're in a more concentrated form of that experiment now, partly due to the fact that there are more of us on the Earth and there's much more information exchange. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we know about this more readily than we would have maybe 500 years ago. But so we're here. This is it. This is what we have to work with. And we have a body in which we reside. And that body is a biochemistry organism. It's a machine of some, it's living, breathing, biological machine. And it's going to respond to the best care in order to be optimally functioning, and it's going to respond poorly to neglect. And so one of the things that I have come to see in recent years is that we are also in control of our own neurobiology. You can change the balance between your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, which are the autonomic nervous system, which is a branch of the central nervous system. I put this up on my blog. The quickest URL to my blog is Sophia with an F, smallstorm.com. Look at that little video, what is the nervous system? And just see, this is what runs. And when we habitually engage in distress, whether by over contemplating what has happened and fearing what hasn't yet happened, you are influencing your cells. Cells have receptors for hormones and neurotransmitters. And if you just continually feed this darkness at yourself, then you're habituating your own biology to and toward and for darkness. Yeah,
Pavlov's dog. We're falling for it.
So that's going to ruin everything. That's going to make you not run well. You watch, I can tell you my heart rate just by thinking. The moment I start thinking, what's my heart rate? I can feel it in my fingers. I can feel it everywhere. And I monitor it. I go, okay, why is it fast right now? Oh, because I was wondering about such and such. And so you have to balance that. I'm not saying don't think about anything bad. You've got to navigate your way through this life. You've got to make good, smart choices for yourself. So the navigation, fear is a good strategy instigator. It's a catalyst for good strategizing. But the positive emotions with the positive hormones and neurochemicals are very good balancers, and those help you drive your intent and creativity. So this is why you have to keep the two in balance. And somebody helped me, someone you know, this summer. I made a little mantra after talking to her. And our adrenal glands, namely the kidneys, I guess this is a particular kind of Eastern science or medicine, they balance will and fear. And the way I actually enacted the mantra into my real body was, you can do it with your arms while you're swimming, because you go left arm, right arm, or walking, left leg, right leg. You have two legs. So each time you walk, say, kidneys manage will and fear, will and fear. One leg is will, your intention, your creativity, the positive. The second one is fear. And that keeps you right on this balanced path.
How interesting.
And it works. You can actually walk yourself into stability, neurochemical stability. You can swim yourself into it because you're using your bilateral, physical body.
It's also part of fundamentally for me, when I look at things like that, it's fundamentally acknowledging we're in an environment of opposites.
Yes.
It's a field of discussion in philosophy about duality and does it really exist? Well, it does on this plane. And we have to deal with it. We have to operate, just like you're saying. You have two legs. You move one, then you move the other. You have two eyes, two ears. The duality, there's light and there's dark. There's, fundamentally good and there's bad when it comes to, using a true moral compass. But we're operating on that plane, and to learn to apply it, such as you're describing. I mean, I think you can say who our friend is that talked to you about that. I think I know who that is.
You guess.
Yeah, it's Kim.
No.
It's not? I thought it was Kim. Oh. But, Kim, by the way, is the one who put together the book for our readers called So What Can I Do? That both Sophia and I are contributors to, which is really worth picking up if you get a chance. It's on Amazon. So What Can I Do? Where it's got interviews with about, I think it's 8 or 10 researchers with basic questions with the intention of this could be something to hand to someone who's trying to get their head around this idea of awakening and what the alternative information is. So I just want to put that plug in for Kim's book. So who are we talking about here? I
already said it, but you talked right over me.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
It's Louise.
Oh, wow. Wow. She's very deep, isn't she?
She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. Louise Sutton, for our listeners, she's a very dear friend to both of us. I've spent a lot of time with her in Spain, southern Spain. But she's also the coordinator and pretty much the brains and brawn behind the Full Circle project. And but she's a beautiful woman. If there's anybody who can help people understand what the divine feminine is all about and really put it in deep metaphysical, spiritual, shamanic terms from the heart and with no attitude, it's Louise Sutton. She's just beautiful. But yes, wow, that's it's funny. I just clicked into Kim because of I was reviewing the different chapters of that book today. Terrific, yes, very deep stuff, very deep. So your overview right now, would you say it's, I mean, obviously you're a work in progress, and like me, and we're constantly learning, attempting to sort of always get the feel for what's going on. It's not so much get a handle on it, but, and it's important to have our sensibilities in these areas really attuned. And I find that people super respond to these things being highlighted. That's why I write about these subjects so much, because it's dealing with the human heart, but at a very deep level, very the spirit, the intuitive, this very source code that's awakening in each of us. And I really feel that is the key to further awakening in any individual's life. The information is peripheral. It's important, but it's peripheral, and it's certainly nowhere to get stuck. But as you see things developing right now, there's a lot of recent turns going on. I mean, it's the same old geopolitical mess going on with the wars and the stupidity of American election zoo and all this kind of stuff going on. It's the same old, but how would you, if you were to try to summarize how you view our very current situation, is there a way you would picture it for someone? I mean, you've already done a beautiful job, so I'm kind of being redundant, but
For who? Who am I supposed to?
Let's say you're attempting to explain this to a newly awakened person who's sort of realizing there's more than meets the eye. They're discovering some of these categories, not just social engineering, but maybe they've just touched a little bit on mind control, a little bit on the occult. They've woken up to, new truths in quantum physics that start to make sense. They start to pick this, see the pantheon of information in the planetarium of life, and all of a sudden, like when you open your eyes on a night like that, and slowly the stars appear. Somebody who's in that initial stage, how would you encourage them along if you had, if they came to you and asked, can you share something with me to I mean, this is very vague, but I'm sort of reaching for more of your philosophical viewpoint because it's so beautiful.
Okay, I'll just stop.
Okay.
You're just going to follow on. So what I would say to them is, look at how the eyes work. Everything you look at is projected onto your retina upside down. That's
right.
And what does your brain do? It can turn it the other way. It does it automatically. So in the real world, everything is upside down.
That's right.
So what's your job? Your job is to perceive it correctly and turn it right side up, see it for what it is. Now, this takes a little bit of practice, but as soon as you practice a bit, you'll get much, much better at it. So that's all it is. And it's meant to be like that. This is what I've arrived at. It's all meant to be upside down. And we're here as little individual wizards. We're plopped here to deal with that in our own individual way.
Yes. Yeah, beautifully said. Beautifully said. That's the thing. It's sort of, I find with a lot of people or the ways of thinking that have been handed to you, that people just won't accept the reality of where we are and our situation. They won't accept the fact that this is a challenge. It's a fight. I mean, I like to use the analogy of the seed underground in the dark. It doesn't know it's going to grow into something. All it knows is it's there, and slowly it germinates, and it comes up through the dark. It's reaching for light that it has not yet seen. It grows up through the earth and finally breaks out and, opens up, and the photosynthesis kicks in. What it knew in its heart, in its kernel at the beginning, gets manifested. Well, that's, to me, a pretty good analogy of the human experience. We're here in these pods, these flesh 5 sense pods, and something within us is growing out of it that seeks to be born. And all of us felt it as children. I think I could say that safely. And when it wasn't met, it wasn't nourished. We hit our first immediate conflict and a sense of abandonment, which screwed us up all during our formative years. And we spend all these years trying to find out who we are, why we're here, and what we're doing. But if that seed and that plant is a real little fighter and keeps struggling and keeps coming up, it's going to find the real light, like Plato's cave. It won't be the shadow anymore. It'll be the real light. It'll walk outside the cave and go, wow. And it's happening on a massive scale in so many interesting ways. But that advice that you just gave, I thought was terrific. That was just terrific.
Well, again, I haven't given any directive. I've just explained something
Exactly.
in terms of an analogy.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to point out the power that we have. I mean, if our brain constantly can flip these images up the right way for, reference,
Mm-hmm.
then imagine what else it can do.
Yeah.
So,
That's just like a linear black and white illustration. It's so funny because I've been thinking about that a lot lately, how the eye flips the image. It reminds me of the H.L. Mencken quote, how everything is backwards. Doctors create sickness, education creates stupidity, how everything's completely backwards in the world. But, so be it. This is our challenge. This is like, for Don Quixote, this is like the biggest windmill ever. We've got a lot of cool work to do. If we can keep a positive attitude about it, I wouldn't even say positive. I'd say energetic, because it's not pleasant stuff we have to wade through. But the thing about information and enlightenment is it just makes people's wheels spin. It gets the engine going. It stimulates the creative juices. And personally, that's my passion. And then I know for you, you're driven by something that's so just about tangible. It's this hunger and this driving passion, and your mind and the way you wrap your consciousness around these concepts. I mean, the process is absolutely beautiful. And when you apply yourself, like you have, like you had quite a bit of coverage during the Sandy Hook event. Right afterwards, you came out and started taking it apart. And since then, a lot has happened. Wolfgang Halbig eventually joined the fight, and he's put out amazing information. And then Jim Fetzer's book, Nobody Died at Sandy Hook, was so powerful that they yanked it off the publication shelves, and he sent that out as a free PDF. But that's just one little skirmish. But I love how you jumped into that. But I've noticed you've besides talking about geoengineering, you've also touched on technocracy, which is a very hot subject. I just had a long interview with David Icke, and we got into that whole transhuman agenda and the nature of it, and how they're going about it, and what the significance is. But do you have any thoughts on that? But because I personally, same as you, I think the technocracy and this whole idea of scientism, how the world has actually made their god scientism above all other religions, is one of the most revealing ways to look at the crystal. It's like turning the kaleidoscope to see what's going on through different facets of the crystal. But and could you tie that back into, if you want to get into this, tie it back into what you said about Clifford Carnicom, who, by the way, listeners, if you're not familiar with him, go to carnicom.com. Or is it carnicominstitute.com now? I'm not sure, but
it's the Institute website now. The carnicom.com just refers over to that one. It
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But this is one of the most cutting edge, one of the original researchers into chemtrails and this whole phenomenon, who has found out some very dark truths about what's in the sprays. But anyway, that's sort of a lead-in to if you'd like to talk about that aspect, because I think it's something you could really shed some light on.
Well, you've been talking about they. So there is some kind of concerted effort to modulate what's natural and blend it with what is man-made. And technocracy was actually a term that I think was born in the 1930s
That's
when
right.
Brzezinski wrote that book, Between Two Ages. And
Well,
then,
he wrote that later, but yeah, it's actually born out of some kind of societies that had, you know, so-called intentions to straighten things out using technocracy. But later on, Brzezinski is the guy who really took it to the darkest, most, you know.
right, the 1970s when they started the Trilateral Commission, and this was to implement
Right. The Age of
plans
Reason.
to make a global system, which always had in its heart this marriage of technological control with social control and now biological control.
Yes.
And so the Brzezinski book, that's actually what I meant to say. That
Yeah. I think that's
we
the
are
age of,
between
is
two
that the age of Reason? I don't think it's the Grand Chessboard, but one of those two books.
like some, it's supposed to be Between Two Ages from my notes. I haven't
Okay.
read.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, now we have this system that's going in everywhere, and it's including Agenda 21, the whole remapping of the globe, the mixing of races and cultures to really dilute all the natural pockets of origin, the elimination of many biological species, which will be as a result of, you know, natural strain. So strains on different organisms are going to wipe out populations of those organisms first, and then an entire species. And then there will be the suggested replacement of that particular type of life with genetically engineered. They've got genetically engineered yellowtail tuna now. They have the salmon, they've got the bait fish, and as the oceans are being increasingly poisoned, along with, you know, the fact that, well, we've got the plastic infiltration into the ocean. The concentration of plastic in the ocean is, I think it's more than 6 times that of zooplankton. And when plastic degrades in the ocean, it looks like dandruff. It bleaches out and it becomes these whitish, beige kind of particles that the tiny little creatures all eat, because that looks like the animal form of plankton, zooplankton. So they're nourishing themselves on what's actually plastic. And this is going up the trophic chain. Plastic is a chemical compound, and it is traveling right up the trophic chain, the marine chain. And all life forms today are attempting in some way to integrate these man-made chemicals and compounds. And what biology can't eradicate by attacking it and vanquishing it, it will attempt to adapt to. So this adaptation is part of nature now. It's part of all biological life on this planet. We are trying to manage the assault, the invasion, the intrusion of things that are not found in nature as they insistently embed themselves in nature. And the technocratic system is watching all of that. So people talk about population control and depopulation. It's more, I say, a population selection, a selection process, in that the creatures, the life forms that will struggle along and survive or try to survive this implantation and invasion of foreign, unnatural materials. Anything that manages to get along with that will be selecting itself out and winning and prevailing. And those will be the prototypes for the next type of life, this integrated, this synthetic biology, let's just call it that.
Yes.
Which includes people.
Yes, I totally agree with you. This is it's a an insane lab experiment with a very definite intention to breed a race, as you said, that's resilient to this changed environment, which is being deliberately trashed before our eyes. And now, as you know, they're using aluminum-resistant seeds that Monsanto, for some reason, engineered, obviously because of the chemtrails and all that. But this is it's a very nasty time. It's instead of natural selection, such as what's his name said, this is unnatural selection. It's contrived, engineered selection. But as far as I can see, that this cannot succeed. As nasty and nefarious as it is, I mean, when you think about the sea life feeding on these microplastic particles, look what the bisphenols have done from the plastic to humans. It's a sterilizer. It's another sterilizer besides all the other bombarding influences. So
but that's what they want. They want
exactly
sterilize so they can supply.
Exactly.
It's all lab created life.
Exactly right. So
when you say I don't think it can succeed, what are you really trying to say?
Well, I think that's the entire plan of this sort, this synthetic, ill-conceived, I guess you'd call it, from whatever dimension or source this would-be controlling force is coming from, is on a crash course to destruction. I don't know when. It could take some time, but it is anti-nature. It is anti-life. It is anti-universal harmony. This is a synthetic outcropping that is coming from some other vibrational influence. This is one reason I'm very much, I guess you'd say, fascinated by the Gnostic teachings and things of that nature, where there's this other influence, this parasitic mind parasite, but also, well, I might call it a mind parasite, but it's brought on this technological uprising against nature. So there's this conflict going on, just as we talked about before. We're here. You got white blood cells battling for your health. You've got, we have to move one foot in front of the other. We're in a toxic environment. Even if it's not toxic, life's a challenge. But this process the natural process will not be overwhelmed. Nature will usurp this in time. But we are in the play right now. We're in the drama. We're in the finale. And ultimately, however we theorize this to be or philosophize, it's the calling of each of us to be responsible in whatever form that we're called, once we've got the bigger picture, once we've really got a true awakening. But that's my personal conviction, that this cannot succeed. It's gonna collapse. I don't know how long it'll take, but it's artificial. Nature wins. Nature bats last. This is just as real as anything. Even if the whole thing has to be reset, and they've stripped the atmosphere, we go into Venus syndrome, and the Earth turns into a crisp. Well, guess what? What's real and true and honest and beautiful will be transferred to perhaps another playing field, another planet, another dimension. I don't know, but I have a knowledge and intuitive awareness that we are way beyond this playing field. So, while at the same time that we must engage in it, we must not be dragged down by it. We must have that really deep knowledge that ultimately what's really true, honest, right, pure, loving, creative cannot and will not ever be destroyed, which takes away that very deep fear, it addresses a lot of things when you get into that whole ultimate idea. But that's my personal take. I don't know how you feel about that, but I sense that you're clearly a creative soul. I mean, the way you see things, it is just beautiful. I just love the way you look through the crystal.
Well, Zen, I think a lot of people, they don't have the grasp that you just articulated. And for me, that's a very elusive concept at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying, I think, is that in our true essence, we're above and beyond all this, but we're here. And so the nature that you're talking about, when you say nature, I think of the earth and trees and flowers and the biological systems and all that. But really and truly, if you just brought someone here from, 2,000 years ago and you showed them where we are and what it looks like, they would be horrified. They would think nature has lost. What are these people doing? Take them to New York or LA and plunk them down in that what they call the concrete jungle and the forlorn little wisps of trees all dried up and crisped, as you said a little while ago. That's done. Yeah. That's not nature. There's no nature there. So
that's the long-term reality. I agree with you. It is nasty. It's not easy to see things as they really are. But on the same token, we're maybe this is just part of the design. I guess it is, but we're being energetically rejuvenated at the same time that the planet they're attempting to kill it off. So it's almost other dimensional the way we can perceive what's going on behind the scenes. But to me, that's the greater reality. Let's face it, our physical bodies will die. They will expire. But there's so much more that will, and it's not a hopeful thought, it's a reality. And so much attests to it, but things move on. We're only looking at a very small, partial little segment of like the light spectrum. What's visible is so small compared to what's really out there. So we're only seeing a little slice of a partial reality that people are powers are trying to control and destroy. It's the awareness of everything else that it puts it in perspective. And you go, okay, this is a playing field. This is what's going on. I'm part of this right now, but wow, there is a greater foundational understanding and experience that so dwarfs this little bitty game.
Right. The way I look at it, again, I'm not that advanced in this thought process and conceptualizing, but we're in this, let's just call it the third dimension. And it has aspects of other dimensions in it, which I touched on in Sandy Hook, that talk, Unraveling Sandy Hook. But the container for what we're experiencing is the third dimension. It's a very dense dimension, and it's held together by our collective fear. So we make the doors solid and the table hard, and we make that matter. And I think we make it through fear. So I define the universe lately as all the dimensions. That's the universe. It's not space. Space is all the dimensions. And we're in the third. And we're operating with a bit of the fourth, a little bit of the fifth. But really we're here in the third, and it's dense and it's not fun.
Sounds like a musical note. Third, fourth, and a fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a musical note. Yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
So this third dimension is our joint effort. We've made this all together, the bad guys and the good guys. This is it. And this is where we are right now.
That's right.
And so, when we die, we're going to get out of here in some way, and it's going to be different. We're going to be in multi-dimensions. I don't really know. But to be here is also to realize that there's more. And that's what quantum physics gets into, I think. And, religion attempts to take you out of the solidity and bleakness of the third dimension as well. Yes. And people can choose different systems to navigate, or to, it's like a ship to sail on, to get a sense, a whiff of what's outside of here. And man has attempted to put different systems together. So there are different, you can go into meditation, New Age stuff, you can do religion, you can do quantum physics, you can invent it all yourself, your own system of thinking
That's
outside this box.
That's right. That's right. So true. That's beautifully said. It's funny because well, philosophy is literally means the love of wisdom. So everybody alive is a philosopher to some extent, or unless they have a disdain for wisdom, which I doubt. But part of our journey here is to understand what this experience is, which is an interesting word in itself. You're standing under, which kind of implies awe, and that there's something much greater, like I said earlier, like looking inside the planetarium of truth and information and inspiration. But we're on this playing field, and that can't be denied. As sure as you can slap your leg or got to go to bed or eat something, we're here, and it's funny how that simple reality is almost avoided in the mental realm of the Matrix knowledge trip. It's even avoided in this philosophical ethereal serial stuff and New Age things. We're here. We're very, very real. We have very real interactions, and we have very real problems. While at the same time, there's this knowledge that there's something so much more profound behind this veil, like you said, the 3D veil. There's so much more. So learning to operate, I think, by this intuitive knowledge, rather than the mental knowledge, I mean, that's needed too, is what is going to lead us to a not only more fulfilled personal life, but more solutions to what this quagmire is that's presenting itself to us. No matter how diabolical and scientific and demonic or whatever, there's tremendous stuff available. I don't know. I just have this very inspired attitude about the situation we're in and the potential of humanity to activate this sort of understanding and tap into these other realms of inspiration, creativity. I mean, they're just sitting there. They're just waiting to be used. And there's something going on vibrationally on the planet and around the planet that we're passing through, be it physical, metaphysical, doesn't matter, but it's manifesting itself. And that's the beauty of the things that you're sharing. I mean, your perspective, the things you shared today, they were really so insightful from a beautiful angle, and I really appreciate that. We're coming to the end of our little chat. We have to do this again, Sophia. It's wonderful. I love to wander these corridors with you. But these are the kinds of things where people can really sort of learn to perceive things in new ways. Let the marbles move around a little bit and add some oil in there and start to loosen up people's perspective, which I think is a really important thing to be part of. Can you share again your website and also talk about your avatar products?
Yes, that's my online store, avatarproducts.com, and I've brought in some things that have really helped me as I've confronted the aging process. It's real. That too is real. And so yep. I offer iodine and magnesium products. Magnesium cream is it's the best seller along with iodine. And it really helps with pain relief from joint issues, arthritis, sore muscles. It's something you need to replenish in your body, where magnesium is the dominant ion in the cell, and it's responsible for hundreds of biochemical exchanges in the body. And we're in very short supply. There are reasons for that I can't go into now. Maybe we'll someday do an interview about it. But I just brought in a magnesium roll-on deodorant, which magnesium chloride changes the microbiome in your armpit. So it chases away the
I like that idea.
bacteria, and it supplies magnesium right into your lymph nodes, and your body goes wild with, happiness. So that's one thing. There's a lot of stuff there. I brought in argan oil, Moroccan argan oil directly from Morocco. I have a Moroccan supplier. This is a very rare oil. The tree used to cover all of North Africa. Now it's been pretty much relegated to this part, Morocco. It's a very small northern African country. The women crack the nuts by hand. It takes 20 hours of hand labor to produce 1 liter of argan oil, but it has some very, very important essential materials in it, like fatty acids and whatnot, that they do wonders on your skin. And I have to say, I had this chapping area on my hands that nothing fixed it except that. And in half an hour, so anyway, I was very, very taken. So anything that I discover that I think is really pretty amazing, I've put it on the site. I've attempted to get some of it and share it. So avatarproducts.com.
Oh, terrific. And your website again?
Aboutthesky.com. And it has my blog on it.
Okay, terrific. And please go there, folks, and send Sophia, words of thanks and encouragement, and everybody, and help her out. Get her products.
Right, and pay by check. We have to push back against these banks. There's a mail order form. Just write down what you want, send in a check. It tells you how to calculate shipping. We cannot rely on shopping carts anymore. We have to transact between ourselves.
Yes, agreed. It's funny.
So Zen, you're very positive. You're a very bright, jolly soul, which is greatly needed here. And I appreciate you because you make me think that, it's not as bleak as I think it is. I'm a little bit of a neutralist, let's just say.
Yeah. Oh, it's there's a lot to be inspired about. It's a super challenge. We're up to it. Everybody's up to it. Breaking away the lies that have held us captive and continue to try to beat us down is the contest at hand. And personally, I'm a warrior. My warrior spirit's been called upon more and more as the years have gone by. The warrior spirit's being called out in so many people. I say yield to it, let it happen, become who you truly are. Let go of your old self-image, let go of your old concepts, let go of your old hang-ups, let yourself change, be willing to go through things maybe you didn't think you could go through, but have determination, and you will you'll find the truth that you seek and long for, and the love that will never fail. And that's my message, and that's how I feel about things. And Sophia, thank you so much for being here. Let's talk more. You're just a beautiful soul, and I'm so happy to be in touch with you, and we've had such great talks. Let's do it again soon, and do stay in touch, okay?
Yes, I will. Thank you for the invitation. It was great to do this, and I hope it's helping people, and they can absorb some of your great spirit.
Not mine. I'm just a reflecting machine. Okay, I love you, sister. Keep on. Don't let anything daunt you. And if you need anything, please contact me, okay?
Yes, now in Zen I will.
Okay. Well done. Okay, talk to you soon. Folks, that was Sofia Smallstorm. No small storm there, I'll tell you what. That is one wonderful bundle of energy, and I'm proud to know her and be in contact with her and to be associated with her. There's so many wonderful people that are doing wonderful things, and let's just keep encouraging each other and having a, I guess you'd say, a can-do attitude despite so much dark stuff coming down. And don't worry, you get down, you get upset, you get pissed off. That's natural. Don't worry about it. And just make sure it's sacred anger and not on their vibration. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you're not angry at what's going on, you're asleep. It's part of manifesting a responsibility and a sense of justice, which is right, and it's not according to their justice system. It's according to real moral and universal justice, which when it is offended, we all feel it, and there's nothing wrong with responding. That's what they've suppressed. Anyway, respond positively. Do your best. And thanks for being here. We'll talk again next week. Got something really special coming. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.